Sterling Hayden names the gay actors of old Hollywood he dated in secret, Hollywood's golden age. It brings to mind a kind of impossible glamour, right? Larger-than-life stars who seemed like they were sculpted from marble and starlight. Their faces, blown up 20 feet high in those grand old theaters, literally defined what was beautiful, what was masculine, and what was romantic for an entire generation. But behind that silver screen, hidden under all the slick PR campaigns and the picture-perfect marriages, was a whole other world. A world of secrets. This was a world of hidden lives, of loves that were strictly forbidden, and of immense, soul-crushing pressure to be normal. For so many, the price of fame was having to erase the person they truly were, especially if they dared to love someone of the same sex. The studio system, with its ironclad morality clauses, was basically the judge and jury, ready and willing to demolish any career that stepped outside the straight and narrow path. In this gilded cage, whispers were like currency, and a single rumor could be a death sentence. But what if one of its most rugged, most iconically masculine figures decided to just break the code of silence? What if a man who was the very definition of the tough guy, a man who sailed the world and actually fought in wars, held the key to one of old Hollywood's most explosive secrets? This is the story of a bombshell claim, a rumor that has bounced around the dark corners of Hollywood history for decades before finally exploding into the open. The claim is this, that the legendary actor Sterling Hayden, in his later, more thoughtful years, finally shared a list. A list of the famous male actors he secretly dated, lovers he could never, ever acknowledge in an era when being out was simply not an option. Just imagine a man known for his towering height and his rebellious soul, a man who pretty much hated Hollywood as much as it loved him, admitting that the hypermasculine world he was a part of was all a performance. And that behind the curtain, he found real love and comfort in the arms of the very men who were his rivals and colleagues on screen. To really get the weight of this supposed revelation, you first have to understand the man himself. Sterling Hayden wasn't your average movie star. In fact, he often said he wasn't an actor at all, but a sailor who just took acting jobs to pay for his true love, the sea. Born in 1916, he dropped out of school as a teen to work on ships, and by 22, he was a certified sea captain, sailing everywhere from New England to Tahiti. He was a real adventurer, a 6'5" beautiful blonde Viking god, as one reporter called him, whose rugged looks were discovered by pure chance when his photo ended up on a magazine cover. Paramount Pictures came knocking, and a reluctant Hayden answered. He was instantly magnetic on camera, starring in classics like The Asphalt Jungle and Johnny Guitar. He had this smoldering intensity, a raw, untamed vibe that just set him apart. But he absolutely hated how superficial Hollywood was. He saw it as a jail that paid the bills but starved his soul. This conflict defined his whole life. He'd make a few movies, get his money, and then just disappear for months, sometimes years, to live on a boat, often in France or the South Pacific. His personal life was just as wild. He was married 3 times, first to the actress Madeleine Carroll and later to Betty DeNoon, with whom he had a nasty, very public custody battle over their 4 kids. In a move that was pure Hayden, he ignored a court order, grabbed his children, and sailed to Tahiti on his schooner, the Wanderer. This was a man who lived by his own rules, and to hell with the consequences. Adding another layer to this complicated guy was his political journey. During World War II, he wasn't just playing heroes, he was one. He served as an OSS agent, a forerunner to the CIA. Running guns to Yugoslav partisans and fighting behind enemy lines. Those experiences led him to briefly join the Communist Party after the war. That decision came back to bite him hard during the Red Scare. When he was forced to testify before the House Un-American Activities Committee, WAC, Hayden did something he later called the great shame of his life: he named names. He regretted it for the rest of his days, writing in his amazing autobiography, Wanderer, "Not often does a man find himself eulogized for having behaved in a manner that he himself despises." This mix of rebellion, adventure, guilt, and a deep hatred for authority makes Hayden the perfect, if totally unexpected, source for such a huge secret. He was an insider who couldn't stand the inside, a man who played the Hollywood game but hated the rules. People who believe the rumor that he dated men argue that this lifelong battle with what it meant to be a man, both on-screen and off, might have pushed him to find connections in a hidden world, far from the prying eyes of the studios and the public. It makes sense that a man who already felt like an outlaw in Hollywood might have found a connection with others who were also forced to live a double life. To really feel the impact of Hayden's alleged secret, you have to understand the world he was living in. The golden age of Hollywood was a beautiful, shimmering mirage built on a foundation of brutal control. The big studios, MGM, Paramount, Warner Brothers, didn't just hire actors, they owned them. Stars were locked into long contracts that controlled everything, from what movies they made to who they could be seen with in public. At the heart of this control were the infamous morality clauses, which let a studio fire an actor if their private behavior brought any scandal or ridicule to the company. This system created an environment of intense paranoia, and no secret was thought to be more dangerous than being gay. This period became known as the Lavender Scare, a moral panic. That happened right alongside the anti-communist Red Scare. The twisted logic, pushed by politicians like Senator Joseph McCarthy and powerful gossip columnists, was that gay people were not just deviant but were also national security risks who could be blackmailed by enemy agents. This ugly mix of communists and queers started a witch hunt that touched every part of American society, and Hollywood was ground zero. The fear was real. An accusation, even just a whisper, could end a career. Studios went to incredible lengths to protect their biggest stars, and more importantly, their investments. The most common trick was the lavender marriage, a fake, studio-arranged marriage to give a star a respectable straight image. One of the most famous examples was the 1955 marriage of Rock Hudson, the ultimate heartthrob of the era, to his agent's secretary, Phyllis Gates. The marriage was short, and as the world would find out decades later, it was all a carefully managed cover for Hudson's life as a gay man. This was the reality for so many actors. They lived in constant fear of being exposed, their private lives a minefield of secret meetings and coded language. Gay bars were constantly being raided, and any sign of deviancy in public was policed. This oppressive world forced a whole generation of artists into the shadows, their real stories and relationships completely erased from history. They had to watch as the studios cooked up on-screen romances for them, selling a fantasy of love to the public that they were denied in their own lives. Any hint of a star's true sexuality was crushed with threats and legal action. It was a conspiracy of silence, and pretty much everyone was in on it. It's inside this suffocating world of fake images and terrifying secrets that the idea of Sterling Hayden's list comes from. A list that, if it was real, wouldn't just be gossip, it would be a radical act of telling the truth in a world that demanded lies. According to the whispers, as Hayden got older and more reflective, living a quiet life far from the Hollywood spotlight, he started confiding in a few trusted friends. It was supposedly in these private chats and unpublished notes that he finally broke his silence, naming the men who were his secret lovers during the Golden Age. The list that has been put together from these rumors is a who's who of Hollywood royalty, men whose public images were as carefully managed, and as different from Hayden's, as you can imagine. We have to stress that this is all based on rumor, not on any verified account from Hayden himself, but looking at the names that keep popping up gives us a powerful look into the hidden world of that time. The first name often tied to Hayden's supposed list is Clifton Webb. Webb was an actor who just radiated sophisticated, almost snobby elegance. He was famous for his Oscar-nominated role as the acid-tongued columnist in Laura and as the very particular Mr. Belvedere. On screen, Webb was witty, sharp, and a definite bachelor. In reality, it was an open secret in Hollywood that Webb was gay and lived for decades with his mother, Maybelle, who was always on his arm at industry events. A relationship between the dapper, intellectual Webb and the rugged, tough guy Hayden seems, at first glance, like an impossible match. But maybe that was the whole point. They were two sides of the Hollywood coin, the refined artist and the man of action. Their connection, if it was real, would have been a meeting of two different worlds, a secret kept safe by how unlikely it all seemed. Another name that comes up in these stories is the beloved actor Van Johnson. With his boy-next-door charm, freckles, and upbeat energy, Johnson became one of MGM's biggest stars during World War II. He was the ideal American guy, wholesome, dependable, and heroic. But rumors about his homosexuality followed him his whole career. His 1947 marriage to Eve Abbott, the ex-wife of his close friend, was widely seen in the industry as a classic lavender marriage, rushed by the studio to kill the gossip. The story goes that studio head Louis B. Mayer basically gave Johnson an ultimatum: get married in 24 hours or your contract is torn up. A secret romance with a man like Sterling Hayden would have been a massive risk for Johnson, whose entire career was built on an image of simple, all-American straightness. You can only imagine the pressure, the constant fear of one wrong move bringing it all down. If Hayden's claim is true, it paints a really touching picture of two men, both trapped in their own masculine stereotypes, finding a real connection in the face of huge professional danger. Perhaps the most compelling, and tragic, name connected to Hayden's secret life is Anthony Perkins. We know him almost exclusively as Norman Bates from Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, but back in the 1950s, Perkins was a sensitive, handsome leading man and an Oscar nominee. Perkins struggled deeply with his sexuality his whole life and even went through years of conversion therapy trying to become straight. His relationships with men were a guarded secret, including a well-documented affair with actor Tab Hunter. The idea of a relationship between Perkins and Hayden is particularly fascinating. Perkins was known for his gentle, almost nervous energy, a huge contrast to Hayden's commanding presence. It's a dynamic that feels like it was ripped straight out of a Tennessee Williams play, the sensitive, conflicted young man drawn to the powerful, world-weary older man. Their rumored connection speaks to the complex needs that the hypermasculine world of Hollywood could never satisfy, a secret space where being vulnerable wasn't a weakness, but a way to connect. So now we have to get to the most important part of this story, the evidence. For all the juicy details and compelling stories, the claim that Sterling Hayden named gay actors he dated is still just an unsubstantiated rumor. There are no on-the-record interviews where he says any of this. His highly praised 1963 autobiography, Wanderer, is a brutally honest book. It goes deep into his hatred for Hollywood, his love of the sea, and his guilt over his whack testimony. But it says nothing about any same-sex relationships. Reputable biographies and histories of his life also stay silent on this topic. The story seems to have started and been spread online, including a recent YouTube video with the same title as this one. These accounts talk about private conversations and unpublished notes, sources that are basically impossible to verify. This lack of hard proof puts the story in a very gray area. It's a story that feels believable given the time period and Hayden's rebellious nature, but it just doesn't have the proof needed to be stated as a fact. So why does this rumor stick around? And what's the point of it if it can't be proven? The fact that this story won't die says a lot about our fascination with old Hollywood and its hidden histories. We want to pull back the curtain and see the truth behind all the manufactured glamour. The Lavender Scare was so good at erasing LGBTQ+ lives from history that now we're left trying to piece together the past from whispers, rumors, and reading between the lines. Stories like this one, true or not, are a direct result of that enforced silence. They fill a void that was created by oppression. Plus, the story taps into a really powerful fantasy, the idea of the tough, hypermasculine icon who isn't what he appears to be. Sterling Hayden, the war hero, the adventurer, the ultimate man's man, becomes a much more complex and interesting person when you look at him through the lens of this rumor. It challenges the rigid ideas of masculinity that the Golden Age worked so hard to sell. In the end, the story of Sterling Hayden's secret list might be more of a legend than a biography. It's a piece of modern folklore that shows our deep need to uncover the human truths that the Hollywood dream machine tried so hard to bury. The lives of these actors were filled with secrets we're only now starting to figure out. What do you think? Is this story a piece of lost history, or is it a powerful legend born from a time of oppression? Let us know what you think in the comments below. And if you're as fascinated by the hidden stories of the Golden Age as we are, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for more stories that Hollywood didn't want you to see. Ultimately, we're left with a tantalizing mystery. There is no smoking gun, no diary entry or signed confession from Sterling Hayden to confirm these explosive claims. What we have is a powerful rumor that shows the rugged actor in a completely new light and shines a spotlight on the intense pressures faced by gay men in old Hollywood. Whether Sterling Hayden actually had these secret relationships or not, the fact that the rumor even exists is a testament to the suffocating reality of the Lavender Scare. The fact that we even have to speculate that these stories were forced so deep underground they may never be fully proven, is the real tragedy. The legend of Sterling Hayden's list, true or not, is a powerful reminder of the countless stories that were never told, the loves that were never acknowledged, and the hidden lives of those who lived in the bright, unforgiving glare of the Hollywood spotlight.